Hello everyone, my name is Sumana, and in today's video I'm going to talk to you a little more about project management. I had made an earlier video on project management wherein I spoke about what is project management and the various steps involved and the phases which are involved in a project management process. So there I spoke about initiation, then there's planning, and then there's execution, then there's monitoring and controlling, and finally you close the project. One of the most important phases amongst those are the planning phase, wherein most of your activities, most of your brainstorming gets into that. One important part of the planning phase is risk management. Lot of people really neglect this topic, but it turns out to be very important for any project, because one risk, if you fail to recognize it, can cost you millions, and it can turn out to be a disaster if not rectified or not anticipated at the right time, right? So that's very important. So I'll be speaking a little about risk management and few other steps which are equally important in the planning phase, right? So let's get started. Now, project management, just to give you a brief, it's every project manager, he gets a project, and it's any project is nothing but it's just out there to solve a particular problem, and then the entire project is about that. It's how you solve it in the best way possible, right? If you speak to a project manager, they'll be, it's not like, every project you just start off and it turns out to be a success. That's so not true. If you speak to a project manager, you'll realize that they have a lot of projects which they do over and over again because of failures, and they learn something, they tweak a little bit, and then there are a lot of things which go about, and that's why people now we use different methodologies, right? To actually understand how to organize and run a project in better way. While talking about this, I'll just focus a little on the planning phase of a project management process, wherein I'll speak to you all about risk management. Now, risk management becomes a very important part of any project, because it's very important to mitigate the risks, because it can cost you a lot of money, resources, whatnot, right? I was just reading somewhere, like there was this, I think just 2 days back, wherein there was this project, okay, which was of a multinational company, and there were millions of dollars involved in that project, and what happened was, in the risk so in the planning phase, in the risk mitigation plan, they didn't pay much heed probably to the risk mitigation plan, and they probably just wrote down few points, and they've just randomly assigned that, okay, fine, risk mitigation plan, if something happens, there's a plan, and then this product manager is responsible for it. And then later on it was found that there were some flaws which went unnoticed, and there were some risks which were involved, and they had to go back in time, and they had to check, like, what is the cause of that risk. And then when they checked the books, they found that, okay, for this particular risk, the product manager was responsible. And when the product manager was contacted, he was clueless, he didn't know about that at all. Like, he wasn't even informed about it. Like, they vaguely, they just chose to not pay heed to such an important part of a project, and because of which that project was supposed to be completed within a span of 2 years, and because of so much of confusion and flaws, it was 5 years, and still the project was incomplete, and it turned out to be a disaster for the company. So you can imagine how important each and every risk is. And so today I'll just tell you how you can do risk management in your project, okay? So basically, as a project manager, or if you're a project manager, if somebody asks you how will you manage your risks, or how can you take care of it, no matter how big or small the project is, the very first step of doing is you start with a risk management workshop. Okay, so that's the first step. Okay, a risk management workshop wherein you will get everybody who's directly or indirectly involved in the project, right? Let them all come over in the workshop. Let it be like an open house session wherein you have everyone there, and then you discuss, right? You brainstorm on all the possible risks which can happen at every phase of the project, like every stage of the project. Okay, let everyone brainstorm and let everybody come up with their own thoughts, right? Let and put it down, let it like put it across the table and let them like speak out. Okay, and then after that you're supposed to note down all the risk, whatever it is. Okay, you're supposed to note it down, and then what you do is you classify those risks into high risks, medium risks, and low risks. Okay, maybe some things which are high risks means they are of high priority and that cannot be neglected, but that does not mean the ones which are medium and low can be neglected. You have to jot down all the risks which are involved in the project, which and then you have to classify them into high, medium, and low. That's what you do in the risk management workshop. That's the very first step. So you have, that way you have jotted down all the possible risks which can be which can be part of that project. Now these risks can also it can be internal risks which are outside your project, uh, but internal. It can be external risks. If you see these long run projects, right, which goes on for years, those projects can be affected by inflation rates, high inflation rate, low inflation rate. It definitely affects the costs and then obviously your budget, right? Which is the most crucial thing for you as a project manager. So you will have to take those risks into account, right? And after that workshop you start making a risk treatment plan with your team. So risk treatment plan is every risk which you have jotted down, you have to have four things under it. Okay, you have to find the factors which decrease the risk. Okay, you have to find the factors which can transfer that risk. Maybe you can transfer it somewhere else, or maybe it can be hidden. Those kind of risks. Accept the risks. Okay, you know that this risk will happen, how can you accept it, and how can you mitigate it, right? And fourth thing is avoid the risk. Okay, so against every risk you have to note down these 4 points. Okay, that how can you decrease the risk, how can you transfer the risk, how can you accept the risk, and how can you avoid the risks. Okay, it's like DTAA. Okay, DTAA, right? Decrease, transfer, accept, and avoid. So you have to, these 4 points are there, you have to just note down 2-3 sentences against each for every risk. Like how would you do that? Okay, just document everything, right? So that you do in the risk treatment plan. That is, you have a risk, you have planned what you will do against that risk. Okay, in the risk treatment plan, against every risk, whatever you've written, you also have to mention the issue against which the risk has been raised, or there's a concern, and also the history behind it, so that anybody who's looking at that file, right, who's a part of the project, will understand the background of it, right? He's not very like, it's not very vague to that person. Okay, so that in some stage, if they are involved in that particular task, they would be able to contribute and understand what kind of risks are involved, right? So this is the risk treatment plan which you have to make. And also, against every risk in this risk treatment plan, you have to assign an owner. Okay, see, in unless you delegate tasks, nothing is going to happen, right? It's all words. So you have to assign an owner against every risk treatment plan, so that owner is responsible to take care of that. Okay, whatever risks are associated with that, I'm responsible. Like if something goes wrong, I am the person, I am the point of POC or the spark for this particular problem, right? So you have to assign an owner against every risk, right? And in companies there are legal risks also. You have to also keep that in mind, right? Especially if you see in the food industry and pharmaceuticals, where you deal with patients, medicines, consumables. It's very important, right? And there are a lot of legal risks which are there. So for that, every company has a corporate lawyer. You have to keep that person, give him a heads up that we are running this project, and if there are certain risks there, legal perspective, and you as a lawyer are supposed to know about it, and you have to come up with a risk treatment plan if there's a possibility of risk. So, and then that person has to take the ownership for the legal risks, right? So everybody is assigned the ownership, and then you create, so this risk treatment plan which is created, it's created in a folder, it's a file, it's called as risk register. Okay, and you make sure that everybody, it's all documented. As I already mentioned, it has the risk, issues, history, the treatment plan, everything, and everybody should be accessible to that, so that as in when the project proceeds, or as in when somebody comes up with something, they can update it likewise, right? If there are newer risks which you have not anticipated, and as you move forward, you see that risk coming, you can update it as and when you progress on in the project, right? So everybody is accessible, everybody's ideas are flown in, and that's how it works, right? And after that, once that is done, you also, what you do is you conduct frequent meetings, right? Maybe every week this group of people have to meet together, and you discuss on the progress of the project, on the risks, how people are working towards improving on the risks, controlling the risks, and then you discuss that in every meeting and update it in your risk register. Okay, and also, I think as a project manager, frequently whatever with the product managers, if you work closely, or if your project is something related to that, usually project managers work closely with the product managers as well. Make sure you have very frequent meetings with the product manager and with your team, maybe once or twice a week, a must, so that everybody is on track. You're aware that okay, how the project is progressing, and everybody is doing their job, just to make sure, right? So that's about the risk management part. One more important part of this planning phase is communication, right? As a project manager, I have to frequently communicate my messages to my team, and the communication has to be very formal, because informally you will say this, you will say that, but nobody, in a corporate, nobody pays heed to whatever you say, and unless you document it, nobody believes, right? Nobody, somebody will, they'll be like, I forgot, or maybe you never said. So you can't buy words, right? You'll have to document everything. So there, you have to make sure that you have, as a project manager, or you have to have excellent written skills as well, along with your oral skills. You have to have very good written communication skills, wherein you communicate your plan very well, you communicate your messages very well. Your communication has to be very crisp and precise, no beating around the bush. Whatever has to be conveyed has to be conveyed very clearly via emails. And for better communication, if you have a corpcom team, a corporate communication team in your company, that's like a cherry on the cake. And if you're really lucky and they like help you out, it's really good, because they can really draft those messages very well for you, and that sort of creates a good impression as well. So, and then you can send it across to your team and make sure that they do their work on time and stuff like that. Okay, so that's one important thing. And then you also have the quality assurance, which you'll have to keep in mind. So you have your QA team, which is always there, and you have to make sure you are in touch with them and in contact with them. CCP, it's called critical control point. So make sure that it's addressed, and you constantly track that. Also, the most important, as I mentioned, budget, right? Whatever you do, you have a budget which is allocated, right? And whatever spendings happen, it has to happen from that budget itself. And while planning, in the planning phase, as I mentioned, so you can follow two approaches. It can be either top down approach or bottom up approach, whatever suits you. In the top down approach, you have your budget, and then you break that down, and then you plan, okay, I'm going to spend 30% or 40% on my resources. I'm going to spend like 20% on my overhead, mm, another 25% on my logistics. It depends, okay, it varies from sector to sector, it varies from project to project. So you plan that. That's a top down approach. Bottom up approach also holds good, very good in a lot of companies, wherein in bottom up approach, you first plan your costs, okay, whatever costs you have, and then whatever similar costs you have, it's like it's like a tree diagram, okay. Whatever similar costs you have, you again group it together, okay, similar costs together, and then you create subgroups. So all the estimated costs, you have different costs together, and then you group it likewise, and then together you make all the costs, sum it up, and then see if it's matching your budget, or if it's lesser than your budget, or if it's equal to your budget, then it's idle. um, if it's greater than your budget, allocated budget, then it's a concern, because that's not how it should be, and it should always be equal to your allocated budget, or it has to be less than that. It cannot be more than that. I would rather say that always have a little lesser than the actual budget itself, so that there's some reserve amount, and in case, you know, you any unavoidable or some circumstance where you don't know, something goes wrong, or some unavoidable costs which are involved, or that's when this comes in handy, right? So it's always important to have it equal to your actual budget, or less than that, a little lesser than that, so that's preferable, right? So yeah, these are the few points I wanted to discuss on project management. I want you all to tell me specific topics which you would like, basically on project management, program management, which are really interesting, so that maybe we could just share that with each other and sort of learn. So yeah, that's it for today, and thank you for watching my video. If you like my video, please like my channel and subscribe to my channel, and I'll come up with more such informative videos. And if you have any other questions, please post your comments. I would like to you know, hear from you all about what you think about my content. It could be about this video and other videos as well, so please feel free to do that. And thank you, and have a nice day. Thank you.